Hi, welcome back to online course in spoken English. By using models, we can make suggestions, we can give advice. Asking a question, what's your take on? What's your take on? What do you suggest? What do you recommend? Then putting oneself in the position of the other person. If I were you, I would concentrate more on elementary concepts. Okay, so putting oneself in the position of the other, so that is in a conditionals. We can also make suggestions by using conditionals. Okay, then advising in a strong way. You'd better, you had better, that you'd better, you'd better take care of your health, you'd better consult a doctor. Okay, you'd better give up bad habits. So this is one way of giving advice in a very strong manner. It means that if the person doesn't follow the advice, he has a threat, he has a danger to face. So that is the tone indicated by you had better, right? Making suggestion, okay, that way I would suggest, I would recommend, I would strongly recommend, I would suggest that you should take up this. So this is making suggestion by using the words, typical words like suggest, recommend. So these are the ways of giving advice or making suggestions, right? So responding to advice or suggestions, there are only two ways. You can respond either in the positive or in the negative. And in the conversation that took place between Vishal and Kushal, we observed positive response. He says, oh, that's a great idea. Okay, I'd like to join, I would love to join it. Thank you. So these are all the positive responses, and you can say, no, I don't agree with you. It's not possible. You are wrong. You are wrong. You are not right. So these are all the responses to advice or suggestions which are in the negative. Okay, a person can respond to the suggestions and advices in the positive or in the negative, right? Ways of giving advice, I have already told you. First one is models. We can use models and we can give advice and we can make suggestions, right? You should not, you must, you ought not to, you must, you ought to. Okay, all these are the different models that we can make use of to give advice, right? You should and you should not. When we say should not, ought to, ought not, it only means that I think it's a good idea to. See, you should work hard, means I think it's a good idea to work hard. You should visit this place immediately. I think it's a good idea to visit the place. You ought to take care of your parents. It's a good idea to take care of your parents when they are in such a critical situation, when they are ailing, when they are sick. Okay, you ought to take. You ought not to, means I don't think it's a good idea. You should not talk ill of others. I don't think it's a good idea to talk ill of others. Okay, you ought not take up that project, means it's not a good idea to take up that project, right? So only should and should not, ought and ought not carry the meaning that it's not a good idea. I think it's not a good idea. I don't think it's a good idea. Okay, then we have you have to and you don't have to, has to, got to or must. These are used for obligation. It is binding on you. It is mandatory that you should do it. It is mandatory that you should not do that. It is obligatory that you should follow this. It is obligatory that you should not do that. So you have to attend the class today, means it is obligatory, it is compulsory that you should be present to the class. Okay, you don't have to. You have to, you don't have to. He has to, he has got to, she has got to, she has got to complete the homework right away, means it is obligatory, she has to complete it right now, right? And then you must not smoke here, means it is obligatory that you should not smoke here. Okay, it is prohibited. Okay, you must come in uniform. It is obligatory that you must come to school in uniform. Okay, you must attend the meeting in uniform, right? So this have to, has to and must not, they are used to bring out connotation, the meaning that it is obligatory to do something, it is obligatory not to do something. Okay, so you'd better, I have already told you, you had better is contracted as you'd better. It's a strong advice, it's a strong warning. Of course, it's a warning. right? You'd better consult a doctor. Means if you do not consult a doctor, you are going to face the danger. Okay, your health may deteriorate. Okay, you may not recover from the illness. So you would better consult a doctor. You'd better consult a dentist. You'd better meet your boss, or else he may blow up. No, he may give you a memo. He may remove you from your position. So these are all the threats and warnings. Then we use you would better, right? Then you could and might. So the very words say that it is not compulsory, it is not obligatory on the part of the listener. Okay, it's not an obligation, it is just a suggestion, a possibility. You could ask him. You could ask him to lend you money. Means it is possible that he can give you money. So he is just bringing out a possibility, right? So we shall take up a few examples, different examples, then we will be able to understand it better. And first one I have already told you, should and ought to. So I think it's a better idea too. Okay, what are the examples? Let us see a few examples. You should consult a dentist. I think it's a better idea to consult a dentist when you have toothache. Okay, when you have toothache, it's better to consult a doctor. You should consult a dentist. You should not watch television till late night. It's not a good idea to watch television till late night. Okay, waking up late night and watching television is not good. He should take a walk every day. It's a good idea. He should take a walk every day. I think you should leave early today, or else you will miss the train. I think you should leave. It's a good idea to leave early, right? She should not tell this to her friends. It's not a good idea to tell this to her friends. Otherwise, if she tells this, her friends would make fun of her. Okay, you ought to study hard for the exam. You ought to study hard. It's a good idea that you have to study hard for the examination, right? Then only you'll be able to secure a good number of marks. He ought to come early. Okay, it's a better idea. It's good that if he comes early, he can meet his friends. He can relax. So he ought to come early. It's raining. You ought to carry an umbrella. It's a good idea to carry an umbrella when it's raining outside, right? If it's raining, it's always better if you carry an umbrella. Okay, they ought to remain silent when he is angry. It's a good idea to remain silent when he is angry. And if you talk back to him, he would become so angry that you cannot just control him. So they ought to remain silent when he is angry. Then you ought not to travel by bus for long distance. It's not good. So rarely used. You ought not is rarely used. Okay, in place of ought not you can use should not. That is okay. Ought not is also used, but it is rarely found in spoken English, right? You ought not travel by bus for long distance. Okay, you ought not to travel by bus for long distance. Means it is not advisable. It is not good. I don't think it's a good idea. Now, this is about should and ought to. Should and ought to bring out that it's a good idea, or should not and ought not bring out that it's not a good idea. It's not a good idea, right? And have to, don't have to, must and must not. We shall discuss these, and here are a few examples for that. You have to finish the project by the end of this month. Means it is obligatory. When you say have to, must and must not, it is obligatory on your part. Okay, you have to finish the project by the end of this month. It is compulsory. You have to finish it by the end of this month, and you have to reach the office by 9 a.m. today because there is a function and you have to reach. It's obligatory that you have to reach the office by 9 a.m. and then he had to inform her before going out. It is in the past. He had to inform her. He should have informed her. It was binding on his part to inform her before he went out. Okay, she has to convince her brother to come with us. She has to convince. It is mandatory for her to convince her brother to come with us. Otherwise, she cannot be allowed to come with us. So there is a condition. And she has, you don't have to wait here. Means, so when you say you don't have to, when you make it negative and it becomes necessary, it is not necessary that you have to wait here. It's not an obligation when you make it negative, right? And then she doesn't have to write the response. Means it is not necessary for her to record her response, to write her response. She must be present for tomorrow's meeting. She must be means it is obligatory. She must be present for tomorrow's meeting. She absented herself for all these days from meeting, and tomorrow she must be present for the meeting. Okay, and they must not eat spicy foods. Okay, it is Not allowed. Must not means not allowed. They are not allowed to eat spicy foods. It's not better on their part to eat spicy foods. I must have told him the truth. I did not tell him the truth, but I must have told him the truth. It was compulsory, it was obligatory for me to tell him the truth, but I did not tell him the truth. That was a mistake, right? And then Ravish mustn't have skipped the class. It is wrong on his part to have skipped the class. He should not have skipped the class. It was compulsory for him to attend the class, right? And then I have already told you could and might. So they are just ideas about possible plans and actions, and you can use them. We can casually use them. We could ask him to lend us money, or else we shall adjust with whatever we have. We could ask him. There is a possibility, if it is possible, just ask him to lend money, or else we can make our own arrangements. Then you might not. You might want to have some more food before you leave. I think it's better. It's possible that you can have some more food before you leave. So might not. In the negative, don't use could not. We can use only might not, right? You can take this for example. You might not want to attend the meeting. That's okay. Don't use you could not want to. You could not, again, it brings out the other shades of meaning. That is, could not means ability. It relates to ability of the person. So better to use you might not want to attend the meeting. That's okay. When you are talking of making suggestions, possible ideas or possible plans, you can use might not in the negative. And could, not might. In questions, don't use might. Okay, you have to use could only. Okay, could you ask him to come with us? Is it possible for you to ask him to come with us? It's a possible plan. It's a possible action, right? And then next one is, first one is models. This is about models. We can use models for making suggestions and giving advice. And second one is asking questions. That asking questions, indirect advice we can make. Why don't you try repairing the cell phone yourself? Indirectly you are asking him. How about convincing your friend about the business? So how about convincing? So you are making a proposal and indirectly you are suggesting. You can ask, you can convince your friend about the business, right? What do you think about asking Lakshmi to give money? What do you think? Is it proper? So you are asking a question, but you are making an indirect piece of advice, right? Have you considered calling the doctor now? Have you considered? Okay, have you considered this option? Can you call? So indirectly he is giving a piece of advice. Have you thought about going to Vijayapura? Have you thought about going to Vijayapura this week? So it's an option. He is indirectly asking this question, and he is making a suggestion as well. He is giving an indirect piece of advice. Okay, it's better to go to Vijayapura this week, right? So this is about asking a question. And next one is putting oneself in the position of the other person. Okay, conditionals, I have told you, it's very simple. So hypothetical situations not based on reality or fact, right? So in the first example also we saw this. So if I were you, I'd eat more fruits. If I were you, I'd not refuse the proposal. So if I were you, if I was in your position, I would do this. Okay, if I were you, I do not refuse the proposal. If I were in your shoes, see this in expression. If I were in your shoes, I'd consult a dentist. If I were not in a hurry, I'd meet you. So these are all conditionals that we can use to make suggestions, right? And advising in a strong way, I have already told you, it's a warning. A person tries to convey that there is a threat if one doesn't do it. Okay, there is a threat if one doesn't do it, and it is usually done by using you had better or you'd better. It is contracted as you'd better. You'd better stop smoking. She'd better pay the fees now. Means you'd better stop the smoking. Means if you do not stop the smoking, you may have serious consequences in future. You may develop cancerous symptoms. Okay, symptoms of cancer in the days to come. She'd better pay the fees now, or else she has to pay the penalty, or she may not be able to pay the fees in future. So there is a warning, there is a threat if one does not do it now. And you'd better not be late for the class. So it is a warning for you not to be late for the class. If you are late, you may not be admitted into the class. Okay, so these you would better brings out warning or threat. One has to follow if he doesn't do it now. right? And last one is making a suggestion, and we say suggest and recommend are the words that we normally make use of, right? I would suggest working still harder. I would suggest working still harder means you are already working harder, and my suggestion for you is to work still harder. I would recommend listening to more and more English. For if at all you want to pick up good English, you need to listen to more and more English, and that is my recommendation for you. Okay, I would recommend not going out on a hot day. It's not recommended. Okay, it's not advisable. You should not go out on a hot day. You will have all the trouble. Okay, you will have some health issues if you go out on a hot day. I would suggest not poking your nose into others' affairs. And every time you poke your nose, poking nose means involving unnecessarily into others' affairs. Okay, and I would suggest not poking your nose into others' affairs. And I was telling you about responding to suggestions. There are only two ways. One is accepting suggestion, and the other one is refusing suggestions. Okay, for accepting you can say thanks, I'll do it. It sounds good. It's a great idea. That sounds like a good idea. Okay, thanks. It's a good suggestion. I think you are right. Okay, why didn't I think of that? You can say. So if a person gives you a piece of advice and you are really moved by it and you are really impressed by that idea, and you say, why didn't I think of that? That's a great idea to follow. So you are accepting the suggestions made by the others. And the last one is refusing suggestions. Okay, next one, refusing suggestions. You say, no, I would rather not. I'd rather not. I would rather not. I don't think so. I don't agree with you. I don't think so. I don't feel like it. Okay, no, I don't think this is a good idea. What a bad idea. Okay, so there are different ways of refusing the suggestions. Talk to your friends. Talk among your friends, your relatives, whoever is interested in English. Keep talking in English and keep learning English. Happy learning. All the very best. Thank you. Bye-bye.